So in this video, I've got some rather interesting fragrances. Some that either are extremely niche and more than likely people around you won't be wearing, or some that are great fragrances that are kind of flying under the radar that nobody really talks about. In this video, I've got 10 of those. So stay tuned. Starting with one that my good buddy Kareem over at Smell of Truth, make sure to check him out if you haven't. He actually mentioned this as a very underrated fragrance, and I have to agree, shame on me, I don't wear it enough myself, and it's quite the great cool weather evening wear type of fragrance. It is Dolce & Gabbana The One Intense Eau de Parfum, this fingerprint magnet, gorgeous piano black bottle. So this doesn't share a lot of similarities with the original's DNA, but what it does have is a heavy dose of cardamom. If you like cardamom-based fragrances, think the realm of more of a leathery type of La Nuit de l'Homme-esque scent profile meets a splash of the Dolce & Gabbana The One DNA. That's kind of where I would put this one. The cardamom's definitely the star of the show. You do get that ambery sweet tobacco in the background. You do get that faint level of the DNA, but not what most people anticipated when it released. That's why I think it kind of fell to the wayside and it's kind of flying under the radar, because most people were just expecting a more intense version of the One Eau de Parfum, because that's what the name would lead you to believe it is. It is not exactly that, but what it is a lovely, seductive, darker evening wear, cold weather type of fragrance that's sweet, spicy, very warm, and a little powdery, and quite enjoyable. Decent performer too. Not gonna blow the walls off of anybody with performance, but it's solid. Average performer, 5, 6, 7 hour range most of the time, the handful of times I've worn it. Solid projection, definitely projects better than the original and even the EDP in my experience. Like I said, flying under the radar. Most likely you'll be the only one around you wearing this. Check it out if you get an opportunity. Dolce & Gabbana The One EDP Intense. Speaking of La Nuit de l'Homme, this is one of those under the radar La Nuit de l'Homme flankers that had excitement behind it when it released, similar to the previous fragrance we just discussed. Shares some similarities in scent profile as well, but this one's more centered around a lovely leather note. I'm talking about YSL La Nuit de l'Homme Eau de Parfum. Yes, this one's definitely flying under the radar. Not too many people talk about this one. It's not just out in the forefront and easy to find like some of the others, including the original de Le Parfum, the new Bleu Electrique. All great fragrances, especially the Le Parfum and the new Bleu Electrique. Those must-haves in my opinion. But if you like that scent profile with some added soft leather, you may want to look into the Eau de Parfum flanker. This is one that, again, had some anticipation behind the release initially, but when it wasn't just a longer lasting version of the original, more true to older batch variations of the original La Nuit de l'Homme, which is what people wanted, it kind of fell to the wayside. Here you still get that cardamom, you still get the aromatic nature. It's still powdery, but not quite as powdery. It's still sweet, but not quite as sweet. The spices I find are a little bit more engaging here, and there's a lovely, supple leather note that kind of takes over the composition. It doesn't become completely a leather fragrance, but the leather is more than just a supporting note here. It's definitely at the forefront. It's lovely. This is a very sexy fragrance. Does not get enough love. Another one, like I said, flying under the radar because it's not exactly what people were anticipating it to be. Bleu Electrique is the fragrance I think people thought this was going to be. This was a 2019 release. Not that new, not that old either, but definitely doesn't get enough love, and one that maybe you should check out. If you can get your hands on a sampler or a decant, by all means check it out. It may be that missing link to your fragrance wardrobe that you didn't even realize you needed. Again, YSL La Nuit de l'Homme Eau de Parfum. So it's no secret that I'm a big fan of iris fragrances, and this is one that Because I have so many iris fragrances, this one kind of falls to the wayside, and I kind of save it for special occasions when I'm in the mood for iris, when it's not just super cold. When it's really cold and I want iris, I go Dior Homme Parfum, but fall season, early spring, evenings in the summer maybe, when I'm in the mood for some good iris, I look to Armani Eau de Nuit. Yes, another one. Flies under the radar. Lovely balance of sweet, spice, aromatic, and waxy iris. This shares similar type of fantasy iris note to the Dior Homme line, where it does have that lipsticky, waxy quality, but it's not too waxy. It's not, I would compare this in the family of Dior Homme Intense, but this kind of falls in between the balance of Dior Homme and Dior Homme Intense. There's a little bit of a soapy aromatic nature here. There's definitely that lipstick waxy quality to the iris, but here you get some milder spices that are balanced just right, and then the sweetness here is toned back but still present. A little bit of a leathery smell in the dry down. This kind of borrows from several different successful iris fragrances, in my opinion, of course, and makes its own, not quite unique scent profile, but a familiar iris scent profile where it kind of smells like Dior Homme, it kind of smells like Dior Homme Intense, but it kind of smells like Givenchy Gentleman EDP, but it kind of smells like Prada L'Homme Intense. Like, when you smell it, that's how I feel about it, is I get a little bit of all of my favorite iris fragrances in this one scent profile. They did a very good job with this one. Not one you hear a lot of people talk about, not one you see too many posts about on social media, regardless of platform, and one that if you're an iris lover, can be a nice little guilty pleasure that maybe only you will have in your circle. Check it out if you get an opportunity. Armani Eau de Nuit. One of the newer releases from one of my favorite indie houses, the banner is right there. I'm talking about Happyland Studios. This is sweet and spicy, but more spicy than sweet. Thick, dense, robust. It's got a lot going on here. There's a lovely sweetness that doesn't overtake. It's more supportive. For being a sweet, spicy fragrance, it's more of a spicy fragrance with some sweetness, I think would be the better way to describe it. I'm talking about Diabolique from Happyland Studio. While I've only worn this about a handful of times, maybe one less, this was a fantastic release. If you're looking for a spicy fragrance that doesn't smell like everything else, there's a little bit of violet going on here. There's a bunch of spice. There's a toffee caramel-ish type of sweetness that's not too much. It's not a lot of it, but you do kind of get a smooth undertone of it. This is a beautiful fragrance. It does have some darker woody nuances to it without being a completely dark fragrance. And of course, as with most Happyland fragrances, pretty much all of them really, it's a beast. If you're looking for a performer at an affordable price that is a unique, spicy fragrance, this one, not necessarily flying under the radar, it's more best kept secret because not everybody knows about Happyland Studio. People in the know get to enjoy some of these fragrances, which for those of you fragrance enthusiasts that are heavy into the fragrance community, you've most likely heard of this brand and potentially this particular fragrance. But for those of you that are newer to the hobby, newer to the community as a whole, these smaller indie houses are really putting out some magnificent original creations, and that's why this particular magnificent original creation is in this video, because it's something to set you apart from the rest, especially if you like spicy. Happyland Studio Diabolique. One that I got, spent a little bit of time with, and kind of shelved for well over a year. And I'm now going back to revisit, and there's such a intense uniqueness to this fragrance. And when I say intense, I don't mean the smell's too intense. I mean that it's just so different from everything else in my collection. This has florals. This has dark nuances. Almost this gothic type of feel to it. I know that's kind of a weird way to put it, but if you smell it, you understand where I'm coming from with Tom Ford Noir, the Eau de Parfum. This is something different. Not for everyone, but if you're looking for a unique scent profile, kind of a dark fougere, if you will, with a heavy iris presence that's not super fresh iris. Like I said, there's freshness here, but it's not super fresh. There's this dark, earthy, creamy nature, patchouli type of smell going on here. Florals, spices, herbs, aromatics. It's got a lot going on. It's actually quite this very evening-centric type of scent profile. I can't really imagine wearing this one too much during the day unless it's one of those dark, cloudy, cool, almost muggy type of days. This scent profile, just something about it, it's got a mysterious nature to it. It would suit that perfectly. When I think of that type of day, I think of this type of fragrance. And it's one that doesn't get a lot of love. Noir Extreme gets all the love from this line. The lovely Gourmand. And look, I've smelled it. It's a gorgeous, sweet, spicy fragrance. I have a carded sample of it. I've tried it at Sephora. I've tried it many times. It's gorgeous. This is different. This is that original scent profile. I believe this came out before the Eau de Toilette. The Eau de Toilette's the clear bottle like this, and it's a much fresher, more soapy approach to this DNA. But this is mysterious, unique, dark, but still a fougere at its core. If you like fougères, but you want to try something different, this will set you apart. It's definitely different. Tom Ford Noir EDP. Not all tobacco fragrances are created equally. There's a ton of great tobacco fragrances out there. There's a ton of good tobacco fragrances out there. But there's only so many unique tobacco fragrances out there. And for me, Goblin Parfums Humidor is a bit on the unique side. This is a moist, walking into a cigar lounge, moistened tobacco. There is a lot of sweetness here that does not overtake it. Don't think Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanille, because there is benzoin, there is vanilla, but it's not overdone. There's this smoky accord to it, like it literally smells like hanging out at a cigar lounge, like people sitting there smoking cigars, not just unlit tobacco like some fragrances do. There is that freshly lit cigar smell going on here. It's earthy, it's leafy, but it's still moist and rich at the same time. I love this stuff. This is one of my happy finds of the year that more people need to try. Andrew did wonderful things with this scent profile. It's not a beast. It's not some 10, 12-hour tobacco fragrance like some. This is more in that 7, 8-hour range, which I find right in the sweet spot. And it's heavy, but not too heavy. Not a room filler, not super pronounced, but within a few feet, it's got some punch to it. This stuff really does push off the skin pretty well without being too much. And like I said, it's not that easy to find a relatively unique tobacco fragrance these days. Goblin Parfums Humidor, this might be that tobacco fragrance to set you apart. Grab a sample and check it out if you can. Picture Bulgari Man in Black with a bit more of a heavier spice, a little bit of an animalic nature to it. That's kind of what the easiest comparison I can make to Salvatore Ferragamo Homme Oud. So it has oud in the name. It has a little bit of a synthetic oud smell, but I've never seen a note breakdown on any particular site that shows oud for this fragrance. It's the damnedest thing, but it does offer an interesting scent profile. This is one that not a lot of people even know exists. Based on my full review that I did several weeks back, based on the comments, not everybody knows this fragrance exists. This was a 2020 release that got some pop on it upon initial release and just kind of faded away. Not too many people really talked about it after that. I didn't really see any posts on social media, scent of the day, stuff like that. So if you like spicier fragrances with a slight animalic and woody nature to them, just darker overall, built for the cold type of stuff, you may want to see about getting your hands on a bottle of this. This bottle came from FragranceBuy.ca a while back. I believe that's still your best bet to find a bottle. It's on the more affordable side. While I wouldn't consider the price range cheapy, you can still get it in the $50-ish range, which it's a decent quality. It's more synthetic on that oudy type of smell. Obviously, it's a Ferragamo fragrance. It's not going to be some natural barnyard medicinal type of oud or anything like that. It's much more easy to wear. It's more of a beginner level type of oud smell, but it's mainly about this animalic leathery type of smell that you get with all of these spices. I would say this falls somewhere between Bulgari Man in Black and Bulgari Man Black Orient, because that has some oud in it and more spices, though this is not quite as spicy as that. Like I said, this kind of falls right in the middle of the two. with some solid performance in the 6 to 8 hour range. It's a great fragrance, and most likely those around you aren't going to smell like this, so it can definitely set you apart. Salvatore Ferragamo Oud. Another one of those special indie fragrances that's just a unique profile. This is one of the more unique tobaccos as well. That's why I have two on the more unique side in this particular video, because it's nice when you come across tobaccos that don't smell like everything else, and not everybody knows about these small, upstart, independent niche houses. That being City Rhythm Fragrances, this is called Manhattan. So there's some fruity freshness up top. There's this herbal tobacco. It's very herbal. I get a very leafy tobacco here. There's a little bit of an aromatic nature. It's not really soapy. Fruits up top, woods in the backdrop, but it's mostly about this. It's like a green tobacco type of smell is what I get from this. Even though it's a blue juice, I find it's more green and herbal than it is any sort of blue fragrance. The blue just, I don't know, that's just the color of the juice. Definitely don't consider this one a blue fragrance. Performance is there. It's a 50% oil concentration. So if an all-day fragrance is what you're seeking that has a unique scent profile that you can be confident you're going to be the only one in the room that smells like this, you may want to look into City Rhythm Manhattan. This stuff is very unique. Signature scent worthy in my opinion, where you can enjoy this every day. Not something that I would necessarily want in the summer, but if you're easy on the sprays and depending on your setting, especially if you work indoors, by all means, you can absolutely rock this one. Works well in the evenings also. Like I said, there's a lovely, robust, earthy green nature to this tobacco without it being challenging. It's not a challenging fragrance. It falls somewhere in between challenging and easy to wear. Like if challenging's a 10 and super easy to wear is a 1, I would put this somewhere in the 4 to 5 range, where it leans a little bit in the easier to wear side if you're looking for something just different that you've probably never smelled before. Give this one a shot. You can definitely get samples from the website. This is City Rhythm Fragrances Manhattan. At the recording of this is actually my scent of the day. It's currently on my skin, and when I went to Kroger earlier to grab some chicken breast, I actually got stopped in my tracks by a lady to ask me, what fragrance are you wearing because you smell incredible? It's always nice when that kind of stuff happens. Made me smile. Thanked her for asking, told her about Zaharoff Signature Rosé because it's a very unique scent profile. Full of rich, bright rose, super fresh rose. There's three different types of rose here. There's a Turkish rose absolute. There is different Bulgarian types of rose here, but what's most prominent on my skin is the olibanum tears, this certain type of frankincense. It's a rose incense scent profile. There is oud, but it offers more of a warm wood type of smell. It doesn't really come across as oud. There's some vanilla bean, there's some sugar, but it's not a super sweet fragrance. That's the beauty of it. The blend here is to perfection. Yes, it's a rose dominant fragrance, so not everybody's gonna like it, but even if you're not a fan of rose, it's still worthy of a sample. Because based on what I've seen, there's a lot of people that don't like rose fragrances that ended up liking this. No guarantee that you're still going to like it, even though you don't like rose. But this might be that particular rose fragrance for you. And like I said, it's a very unique scent profile. I personally don't have anything else that smells like this. I'm not saying there isn't fragrances out there that aren't similar to it, but it's got to be based around rose and incense to smell anything like this. And the performance is there, where it's not incredibly in your face, but there's a very strong trail as based on experience today, where I was walking by and this lady was probably every bit of 4 or 5 feet away from me. We did not pass that close by one another. And she got a strong enough whiff of the aroma that compelled her to stop me and ask me about it. And conversations like that I always find interesting because I love to talk about fragrances. Obviously, it's what I'm doing here on YouTube, talking to you guys about fragrances. So get a sample and try this one, because if you're looking for uniqueness, that's a damn good head turner, to be honest with you. You might want to get a sample and give Zaharoff Signature Rosé a try. Last but not least, this is one that I like to wear out to dinner. Suits the cold weather perfectly, but I do like it in the evenings also. Not exclusively, but favorably in the evenings. If you're looking for a boozy, tart, fruity, piney green. Original. Interesting set of words I chose to describe this. I bet you're intrigued. It's Kajal Perfumes Warde, the namesake for its own collection. This stuff is different. There's absinthe here to provide this freshness. It's got a slight booziness. There's black currant to provide this tart citrus. There's a dark aroma. There's a piney green smell here. There's a little bit of oud, if I recall, but it doesn't really come across heavily. There's a lot of woods. It's a very strong woody base, mainly. But the opening here, and I smell it floating in the air, is intoxicating. This is such a great fragrance. One of my favorites from the house. When you're looking for versatility, aim towards the Kajal Homme line. But when you're looking for intoxicating, it's between this one and I would have to say probably Warwick from the Fita line. So try those two if you're looking for an intoxicating fragrance that can be kind of a conversation starter, because the 6 or 7 times I've worn this one outside of my wife, I want to say I've had at least 2 conversations with a stranger about what I was wearing, because it's an interesting scent profile. It doesn't smell like anything else. Like I said, take a look at the note breakdown on this one. It's odd, it's different, but it's awesome. Performance is nothing short of incredible. 10 to 12 hours, strong but not too strong. Right in that sweet spot for most people, where I would take it 1 click back of being beast mode, really. Maybe 2 clicks back on the projection and 1 click back on the longevity. But the performance is no slouch. And like I said, uniqueness, that is the key here. A unique, intoxicating scent profile. Grab a discovery kit of the Warde collection so you can try this one for yourself. It's Kajal Perfumes Warde. So, I hope you found that to be quite an interesting collection of fragrances, because when I was putting this video topic together, I thought it was quite an interesting collection of fragrances. That's why I wanted to discuss these with you. And until next time, do me a real quick favor, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, because I do appreciate all the feedback and I love hearing from you guys. What in this video have you tried? What in this video have you heard of? What in this video sparked your interest and you've never heard of before? That would be the best part for me personally, because I'm hoping to bring you something you've never heard of before that interests you enough to give a try and maybe add something phenomenal to your fragrance wardrobe. Who knows? That's my goal. And until next time, I will say, if you get your hands on any of the fragrances I've featured in this video and you give them a spray now, you might end up thanking me later. Have a good one, guys.